Hi there everyone, Darren here, and today we are taking a look at a bit of an older Hot Toys figure, but one that I think is just top notch, one that I think is one of the absolute best that the company has ever made. And also I'm very biased because this is also a figure based on my favorite video games of all time, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Now, I'll be the first person to admit that Metal Gear Rising is a short game. It's probably not for everyone, but if you love action games, if you love kick-ass video game soundtracks, if you love some of the best boss fights of all time, you've got to check this out. It is an absolute masterpiece. And the fact that Platinum Games hasn't made a sequel yet, hasn't been able to make a sequel yet, and probably likely never will, is just... I'm probably going to go to bed sad and crying tonight at that realization. It just makes me so sad. But let's move past the depressing, harsh reality that is truth, that is the truth of this reality, and let's talk about the figure itself. Now, the one that you're looking at is the special edition in the Inferno armor. I'm still on the hunt for the regular edition, which has a black armor finish, but I love this one. I managed to get this from a local guy. It was in mint condition, and when he made me an offer, you know what, I did not even pause. I had to have it. As I said, one of my favorite video games, one of my favorite video game character designs of all time. It just looks fantastic. As you can see from this single image, you don't even need to have him in a dramatic pose. A museum pose is good enough. I mean, I know he comes with a ton of accessories and extras, but even if you don't want to, you know, go hog wild with what you can do with these extras, you can have a kick-ass figure on your desk, just standing there, just glaring, just staring. But you can put him in some great poses, so let's actually talk about that and move on. Right, first off, I'm going to say that I do need to start looking at getting a bigger light box, so I do apologize that this isn't a perfectly white image that you're seeing the figure rotating in, but if I did some photographic magic here, the sword, the Masamune blade over there, that would kind of disappear into the void, and I didn't want to do that. But let's talk about this pose specifically. The inspiration for this pose came from right at the end of the game, because normally when you play as Raiden in Metal Gear Rising, he doesn't use a katana that's got this crimson red sheen to it. That actually belongs to one of the main enemies in the game, Jetstream Sam. Now, near the end of the game, this is actually, I would say, bequeathed to you. It gives you this final katana in your battle against Senator Armstrong, and this proves to be the deciding factor in Raiden's final fight. So for this pose, I didn't want to go too crazy, too dramatic. So I've got him mostly in a museum pose, but I've got his arms stretched out, and it works wonders. You've got to also just maneuver his hand with the peg's edge, just so there's got some slack in there, and it works well. So it gives you a full, what's the word I should say, full length of his arm and blade. So if you've got the space in your cabinet, it's a great option to have. Carrying on with that theme, this is actually, I should have actually gone first with this, but it ties into Raiden acquiring the Masamune blade. When he first gets it, he unsheaths it in fantastic dramatic fashion. Let's actually see if I have some video footage from my own gameplay that I can use here. So it also works great. You don't have to go too hog wild on his legs. You can give him a nice combat ready stance, and then you can just maneuver the arms up. If you are having some trouble, you can swap out those chest plates. There's a smaller set that you can put in that makes it easier for him to get his arms up. I didn't need to actually do that because I've got his arms spread out, but I would suppose that if you bring his arms in, I would recommend that you do that. And then from there, you just need his grabbing hands. You could use his one sword holding hand, and then you can use the other grabbing hand in his right arm, if I've got that correct. Yes, his right arm to hold that very cool looking sheath. I love that it's got a trigger on it. I love that it's got an actual magazine in there so that it has a number of charges for when Jetstream Sam wanted to launch his sword out, so he could do this incredibly powerful slash attack. As you might have noticed in that video, this figure isn't exactly the easiest to stand up. I would really recommend making full use of the figure stand that it comes with. Those stiletto heels, they are just very very temperamental when you need to find that sweet spot, that center of gravity, so just be aware of that. Right, now we are moving into a more combat ready action pose. For this one I decided to dip into Raiden's arsenal a little bit more. He comes with his sheath at the back, which can hold his main high frequency vibratory blade. I don't know if I've said that right, but it's just such crazy science that I love to hear more about. And you can also keep a dagger there. So I thought, you know, why not double dip there? You can have a dagger in the one hand, you can have a sword in the other hand, and we can stretch his legs out a bit. Again, you don't need to manipulate him too much, but just enough. When I was on the 6th Scale Network forums, and I was showing off some photos of this particular figure, the guys were warning me that the elbows on the Raiden figures are particularly fragile. And considering that I have gotten a bit rough-handed with some of the poses I've been experimenting with, I am absolutely amazed that I haven't broken those elbows yet. But on this figure, on this Inferno model, they seem to hold up pretty well. So with that in mind, just bend these elbows very gently, and then just cock them a little bit so that it looks like he's ready to pounce at any given time. I'm an absolute sucker for a good walking pose, and as you can see here, I'm trying to capture this in its entirety, but my light box isn't big enough. That's why you're seeing some reflections on the side there, but we'll do a zoom and a close-up soon enough. This one's also pretty easy to do. You can have the weight of the swords pull the arms down, but give them just a slight bend in the elbows, have them jutting out side to side so it looks kind of like a cyborg scissor man. That's the only way I can really describe this. And then just position those legs. You don't need to do a crazy extreme walking pose, you just need to do a subtle one. And again, with those stiletto heels, it's not exactly easy, but it is doable. Now for the next pose, you don't even need weapons. If you've played the Metal Gear Rising game a couple of times, you will notice that Raiden has this really wicked cool martial arts pose. I haven't been able to replicate it entirely faithfully, but with the hands available, I do get this animalistic kung fu pose that I can have him switched up in. I do like it. I do like that he's got this predatorial stance that he can take that just makes him look more animalistic. And again, if you're familiar with the game, you know all about Jack the Ripper. It's just a great persona where he just goes absolutely wild on the battlefield and just starts slicing people up. It's pretty cool stuff. I call this the on guard pose, basically. Got a blade in the one hand, got one of the animal claw grabby hands set up in his other arm, so he's ready. He's kind of anticipating an attack. He's about to pounce, he's about to react, he's about to parry. And obviously this depends on the angle that you're looking at, because it doesn't always work from every angle, but for front facing angle I do find that it looks great. Just word of caution I will add here as well, be careful with Raiden's hair when you move that head if you ever get your hands on these figures. That hair is freakishly sharp. I've poked myself a couple of times, it's not fun. And then for the last pose I wanted to show off, for now at least, I might revisit this to try some other stuff. Again, it's a simple museum pose with Raiden holding his blade, but you know what, he's basically allowing the weight to drag his arm down a bit. He's resting his arm with that blade, and it gives this great impression of a cyborg samurai. I love something like this. It's what I'm using in my collection currently. I did want to use something with the foot, because you can plug that blade into a spare foot that you get with this figure, but for the life of me I just couldn't get the pose right. It just wouldn't work for me, and I was so scared I was going to break this figure. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to tempt fate, let's leave it at that. We can do so many other great things with this Raiden figure. It won't risk breaking this figure. I wouldn't call him a glass cannon. I think he can take a very durable knock, but why tempt fate, right? Why would you want to risk breaking something that's at this point costs an easy $300 on the resellers market? I'm not going to. And there we go, guys. That's another quick look at another very cool figure. I'll be looking what else I have in my collection that I can do another posing session on. I do apologize that this video came out later than the others. I've been trying to do a weekly schedule, but I couldn't quite manage it because other work stuff came up, and hey, life comes at you fast, and I can only apologize for being a bit tardy with this, but I will try to be back on a weekly schedule with my content. If you do feel like sticking around, I do appreciate it. I do really thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, please ask them, and I will do my very best to answer them within the absolute limits of my knowledge. Until next time, have a great day, guys, and thank you for watching.